OpenAI just released Study Mode. Will this transform learning? Let's put in a very simple question in the traditional mode. So I've put in a very simple question into ChatGPT. And what we see here is that it pretty much automatically gives you the answer with a small bit of working out. In order to learn, you actually need to think through the problem yourself. So let's see if Study Mode does what it says it can. So what we do is we go down to the Tools bar and we select this Study and Learn button. You will notice now that Study is highlighted in the prompt bar. What we are going to do now is we're going to put in exactly the same question. Now we see the approach taken by ChatGPT is slightly different. It is now going to transition us from passive learning to active learning, which is where retention is much higher. So the question is, what do we do first, the addition or the multiplication? Questions like this are important as it allows us to really think deeply about the problem. The best way to test out its capability is by putting in the wrong answers. So that's what I'm going to do right now. It's great that it's picked up that we're wrong and that it's giving us some sort of explanation. However, here, I would really want to understand why we need to do multiplications before we do addition. So I'm going to ask it a question here, see how it responds. So I've done a lot of testing with ChatGPT as a tutor before. And one of the common problems was that it would take you through that step-by-step process, but at stages it would give you too much information. And while I asked for some clarifying information, it then went through and solved the rest of the question, which is something I think that I can continue to improve upon. All right, let's try a different type of question. I'm now going to ask it to solve a simple circuit question. I'm doing this without the study mode on first. As you can see, it went through and provided all the answer. Again, this is not how we learn. Just reading information from the screen is just an illusion of your ability to learn. You will not be able to retain it. So let's repeat that question using the study mode. Now you can see in study mode that we're going to move away from passive learning to interactive. Learning occurs by doing, just remember that. So it's now stepping us through the thought process. And the first part of that process is to determine if it's a series or parallel circuit. Again, I'm going to put in the wrong answer to see how it behaves. In response, it's provided some good information to explain why my answer was wrong. So it's given us some clarity as to why the answer was series. However, it moves straight onto the equation that we needed to solve. I would really have hoped that it would at least explain the formula first. Currently, the only indication that you have is that it says all the resistors need to add up. So let's plug in the answer. So it gives us the answer and then moves on to the next step. If you don't know much about electrical circuits, you might be wondering, why do we need to apply Ohm's law? And that is okay. This is your opportunity to jump in and ask questions that you don't know about. And this is the great thing about using a platform like ChatGPT, where it's not just about the technology guiding you. It is an interactive and engaging process. For it to work correctly, you must ask questions in regards to any information that you don't know about. If you do that, you will learn. If you don't, you won't learn. Now I'm going to move on to the next step. Again, I'm going to put in the wrong answer, and it continues to provide us explanations. Again, I'll put in the wrong answer. You will notice something that I mentioned earlier on, and that is if you put in the wrong answer, it will actually tell you the right answer. A better approach would be for it to provide you some more guiding information and force you to have more attempts at solving the answer correctly. Now I'm going to try a different approach, and I'm going to upload some lecture slides. Now only upload if you have permission to do so. My goal here is to see if I can create revision questions to check my learning. So creating the questions is the easy part. What I really want to know is if I get the answer wrong, is it going to help me understand why? So I'm going to put in the wrong answer like I have before. Again, I put in the wrong answer and it pretty much tells me immediately what the right answer is. Again, this approach is not really forcing my mind to think deeply about what the answer should be. The next question is slightly better because it's asking me to put meaning into my own words. As you can see, as I put in more wrong answers, it continues to provide me the right answer instead of forcing me to think about it. In conclusion, it seems like this new functionality is a step in the right direction. ChatGPT could already do this, but it's just made it simpler for you without having to write the prompt. The key question is, how reliable is the tutoring sessions. I have done research on this, and it shows that it can vary from topic to topic. Because of that, you need to be very, very careful of your interactions to make sure what you're learning is actually correct. But again, we're heading in the right direction. I'm Dr. Sasha Nikolic. Thank you for watching.